Hey everybody, welcome back to 6 Feet Under Exhumed. I am Carrie the Mortician.
I'm Faith, that mortuary professor. We are on episode four of season 2. There you go. Of 6 Feet Under. It's titled Driving Mr. Mossback. And it starts on a tour bus. They're in Seattle and they're on a tour of Pike's Place Market. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this man just kind of just dies in the seat.
Guys, and he's
And
so
all
cute.
the other old people get off and go to their little tour or wherever they're doing. It's like a tour bus, and he stays on there. And the tour guide goes back and finds that he has passed away right there on the bus and says, "Oh, we've got another one," which indicates that it's happened before, which I'm sure it has. So he's
Yes.
just there on the bus, and it's kind of interesting because my aunt not too many years ago was flying to Australia, and somebody died on the plane.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't stop the plane. They just covered her with a blanket and kept going. And so they were on the plane for, 14, 15 hours, something like that, with this lady just dead in her seat. And could you be imagine like sitting next to her?
No, no. You would think they would put him somewhere, but where is there to put him?
Where in the bathroom?
Exactly.
Like, where are they gonna,
Nowhere. Yeah.
right? I mean, maybe they should have like not like a little bathroom for in case somebody dies on a long haul flight. I don't know. But I thought it was funny that they didn't turn the flight around or because it wasn't that long into it. They weren't like, they could have stopped somewhere, but I don't know how that works. But yeah, so that does happen. People do die on mass transit vehicles, I guess.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, but he is from where they are in
Yeah.
LA. So they need to get this deceased back to Fisher Funeral Home, who's handling them. And the family's like, well, where is he? And they're like, oh, he's at such and such funeral home up in Seattle. They're holding him. You just need to go get him. And they're like, okay, we'll put him on a plane. And they're
Yeah.
like, no, he does not fly. And Dave's like, I think it'll be fine this time. And they're like, no, he would not be okay with that. It's not what dad would want. And they're like, can't you bring him another way? And Dave, it's kind of this funny because of the reaction of the woman, because he goes, well, when Abraham Lincoln died, they just put him on a train and put him on ice and delivered him a few days later. And she's like, did he just say put him on ice? We're seeing David kind of change how he talks with
Hmm.
families. He's getting a little more casual, which is not at
Right.
all how he was first.
No,
So it's
no, not at all. But
actually,
he said something that to me was I don't know. Maybe he was like, well, we'll have to ship him via freight or train. And I'm going, have you ever shipped a body via freight train?
the
Or
guy
like,
goes like FedEx, and Dave goes, yeah,
yeah,
exactly. I'm like, you can't.
have you ever done like what? You just go get them or drive them. The funeral home drives them, or a transport company drives them, or you go get them. There's no in my maybe this happens in other places. Tell me if you're listening and you know, but I have never worked anywhere or seen where you just like they're not freight in a train with like your Amazon purchases and your
Oh.
like never have I sent anybody by train. Ever.
But on a plane, the person is
Well,
in cargo and they just stick them under the plane with all the rest of the cargo. So,
that's true. If you're flying a body on a plane, it does go into the cargo area, like your luggage and stuff. But I
yes,
mean,
it's interesting, I will say.
you
Yeah.
don't go in a on a freight train. Like, what is he? I don't know. That was
Well, and I
not
thought it was interesting because they don't drive up to get him. They fly one way up and
then
then
they're going to drive a
they
U-Haul back.
and rent this U-Haul van to drive back. And I'm like,
I understand wanting to fly somewhere and then drive something back, but I don't know that I wonder if U-Haul has a clause in their contract that says you can't use it for moving dead bodies. I don't know. But I'm kind of thinking like, yeah, I mean if I flew there, rented a truck and just drove the truck back cuz you can rent one somewhere and return it somewhere else. That makes sense to me. I would do that cuz I don't want to be in the car that long both ways. But I'm thinking a U-Haul moving van, would they just be like would they even know? Would they care? I would
But it was
never.
like a cargo van. It wasn't a big box truck.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was like a cargo van.
like a
So,
normal van that you would rent,
but
but
it's not set up for a cot.
they didn't use a cot. He was in a shipping um box. He was in
Right.
a because I was like, well, he's not going to have a cot. So that I was like waiting for that, and then
Okay.
they
Yeah.
had in a what you would put him in to put him on an airplane, and
Was he
that
in a tray or a combo?
a tray because it was just him, and not
Well,
a
if you,
casket, and
well,
so
then it would be a combo unit.
or combo. I'm sorry, I'm
Okay.
going backwards with what it is. Yes, in a combo unit, and that's a shipping tray bottom with just a cardboard over
Yeah.
it is what it looked like, and they just put him in. And Josh watched this episode with me, and he goes, "There was no body in that box. Did you see how those two men lifted from the middle and just put him in as if there was nothing in it?" He's like,
Well, yeah, there's nobody in a
"I
box.
call BS there."
Oh my
He's like,
gosh.
"That is not how it works," because he's done lots of transfers and stuff, and he's
Yeah.
like, "No way." And I'm like, "Well, honey, come on." And
Well,
he's like,
it's
so it's
TV.
funny that he was calling out these non
Yeah.
up to code things just because he's been around the business for 30 years as well and done a lot of areas. So,
Sure.
but we digress. We skipped way far ahead with that. But
We did.
so, we've got this deceased, we got to get him. Part of this is Claire goes to the therapist and is talking to the therapist, and he's like, "Well, you're mad at me." And she's like, "Well, yeah, I'm mad." And he's like,
The
"Go ahead."
guidance counselor.
Guidance counselor, yes. And she kind of has a conversation, and then she goes home and they're sitting talking to Ruth, and Ruth's like, "Well, where is that boyfriend here?" She's like, "Oh, he went and joined the um oh, what's it called? The people that sell beads and stuff at the airport and the little books."
What? Who?
Not Harry Carey is
Oh, Hare Krishnas?
yes. She tells Ruth that, yep, he joined
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Did he shave his head and everything? She's like, yep, and everything. And then he's gone, so I don't know where he is now. We're done with talking about him.
We
Bye.
don't know for now. Yeah, it'll just be
It's just kind of funny because she's like matter of fact, and Ruth's just like, oh, goodness, kind of thing. And
yeah.
oh God, I love her. But so they're sitting there, and Nate's there with them, and he's like, "Hey, Claire, do you want to come on this road trip with me?" And she's like, "Yes, like get me the hell out of
Oh God, yeah.
thing." So her and Nate head off on this adventure together, which I just love that, and she's asking questions, and he goes, "Would you just let me be your friend and your brother
Yeah.
sometime? Just please?" And she was like, "Oh, okay." And I kind of loved that moment. Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying here, girl. I'm trying to treat you like you're an adult and like you're my equal. Roll with it.
Well, there's such an age difference between them too that it's difficult. I mean, she's 18, he's 35.
Yeah.
I mean, he could be your dad. He's old enough to be your dad. And so I think their relationship dynamic is different than siblings closer in age. But it's nice that he's trying and spending time with her, and
Yeah.
nice that she gets to get out of the house, I guess.
So we see Ruth in this episode. God bless, I love her. So she has done the plan, even though she
Yes.
kind of was a dropout, she still claims that she did the whole thing or whatever it was. So
She's
you
still
see
using
her,
parts of it.
correct. She's rebuilding her blueprint as we find out in this episode.
Yes.
And the kids are like, what is she even saying half the time? Like, she sounds crazy. And Dave kind of calls her out on it. But so you see her call Hiram first. And he's like, are you drinking? Like, what is wrong with you? And she's like, no, I am rebuilding the blueprint of my home. And he's like, are you moving? Like, what's going on? She's like, no, I'm not moving. I am rebuilding who I am and the space around me and what I and she kind of goes and you get an idea for what it is she's doing. But then you see her cleaning the house and going around dusting, and she's calling her sister and she's calling her old friend, and she's leaving these messages because they're not answering. And she's just
Yeah.
going on this tyrant of what she feels like she needs to accomplish to build her new whatever she's building. And it's so cute and it's so comical just because she's so like, this is what I have to do right now, and then everything will be good if I do this.
It's kind of similar to like making amends for,
Yes.
maybe like
12-step program or
12-step things. Yeah. And it's the first time we really hear about our sister. So, I mean, I think we've heard about our sister before, but we hear a little bit more about our sister
Mhm.
and their legless grandmother, which I just, yeah, I mean, you know, and Hiram, of course. But yeah, I mean, she's just trying to reconnect maybe with people. Um, but again, that plan, I think there's good things in it
Mhm.
for sure, like any cult, right? There's good nuggets, but
They all
it's
start out with good intentions.
it's
Yeah.
kind of toxic in a way where it's like you're 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 in control of everything and everything is and I don't know, that's kind of dangerous thinking, I think. But yeah, so she's trying to do those things, and as Carrie said, it's some people are more receptive. Well, nobody answers the phone, I guess, really. So
Yeah.
is nobody's receptive to it. But
So we meet Lisa, who's Nate's friend that works at the co-op with him and kind of ran the co-op, and that's who they're Claire and him are staying with when they're in Seattle. It's this beautiful home, beautiful looking out over the city. Like just I'm like, oh, I want to go to Seattle. That looks pretty.
have you ever been to
Um,
Seattle?
I have not
Oh my gosh, I was there in
yet.
February.
Yeah, not yet. So eventually I'd like to go. It's good Bigfoot hunting territory over there
Yeah, that's
outside
what
the
I
city.
hear.
Well, that's up Josh's alley, so it's on our
Bigfoot
list.
hunting?
He likes the whole Bigfooty
I
thing.
like Mothman. I'm into Mothman.
Oh, that's down in Ohio.
I
Oh,
know.
that's
Is it
Virginia.
West Virginia or something? Yeah, I'm into Mothman.
It's
Bigfoot, I don't know.
my friend owns the funeral home on the Ohio side of
Oh,
the river where
yeah.
Mothman is. So it's literally his yard is, kind of where it's all at. So I've been down there a lot. I used to go visit him a lot.
Have you ever been in those tunnels or those bunkers or whatever? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I never went
Well,
and
that's where he lives. That's where he hangs out, supposedly. There's all these old like
good.
World War
Let's
II
go find
bunkers.
him
I
and
would love to. I
but
don't, okay, well, cryptids anyway. Um,
I love it. But so we meet.
I
Oh, go ahead.
I I don't like Lisa. I'm sorry. And I know that I have the prejudice of having watched the entire series multiple times and not just I'm not trying to spoil anything for anyone who hasn't, but Lisa is probably one of my least favorite people in the entire series, even though as the series goes on and we do see more of her, it will, you can identify with her and things like that. And you'll see if you don't already know, but I just that actress, it's the actress first of all, I think, because she
Oh,
just
I love her.
whispers. You do, she doesn't use her voice. Everything is just a whisper. It's just a whisper. She never actually uses her entire voice. And
That's
like
just her, I think, in
she
every
just,
character.
she's just
Yeah.
like doing this the whole time. And I don't know. It drives me just I just don't like the way she speaks.
She was in Say Anything, and that was one of my first like movies where I just absolutely fell in love with the movie and loved John Cusack and just loved the whole storyline and watched it over and over and the boombox, like all of it. And she's in that.
Yeah.
But
She's in a lot of movies. I mean, she's
oh,
been
so
in
many, so
many,
many.
many things. She was in like I mean a million of them. She was in all the Conjuring movies. She was so many, but she has that same voice
Yeah, and all of
in
them.
every movie and that forehead vein in every one, which you can't help. I mean, you know, people have forehead veins, but it's just I think it's had I didn't dislike her before this role. So I'm judging an actress based on a role that she played that I didn't like, which is stupid,
And she's
essentially.
kook. I mean, just like her and Billy should be in the same padded cell. Like
Mm.
they are both cuckooey in this movie.
She is just
So
extra like hippie. Talks about how, what is she talking about? Oh, she doesn't watch movies because film is made with gelatin, which comes from horse hooves.
she's like extra vegan, extra.
Oh, extra.
And then she's trying to release the ants and she's had a conversation with them and they're not listening and she wants them to go away, but they're just not going away. And she is super extra when it comes to all of that. But she, we kind of get the feel that she has a very large role in Nate's life because
Sure.
Nate has told one person about his, um, health condition. And then him and Claire are in this drive-through and he goes to speak and he just kind of repeat, nothing.
That
Kind of
makes
does this
sense.
whole jumbly jumble because he has a short circuit. And then he
Yeah.
gets really sick and he gets on his vomiting, and Claire has no idea what's going on, and he doesn't tell her. So she has no clue. But he gets back to their house that evening. They're at the house where Lisa is, and Lisa goes in to bring him a blanket, and she's like, "What's going on?" And he breaks down like completely. And then the next morning they're leaving because they got to go get Mr. Mossback to head home, and they have this weird moment where his shirt is still in the closet and he tells her to keep it, and Claire's like looking at them like, did something happen with you guys? So we're kind of left wondering, did something happen between them?
Well, he does tell Claire before that that they did used to sleep together when he lived there.
Mhm.
And but it was
They never
nothing,
dated. They
and it
never
was nothing
dated.
more. They were
Yeah.
just friends. And Claire's like, does Lisa know that? Which, those situations are common where
Yeah.
one person thinks they're in something that the other person
A
lets
little more
them believe.
casual than the other person believes.
Yeah, and oftentimes it's one person, leading somebody on to continue to sleep with them, but we don't know. But anyway, yeah, so they have slept together and have had that kind of relationship. And it's obvious that there's something between them, and there's something between them.
We just don't know
Uh,
what. And him and Brenda haven't had sex in forever. And
yeah,
like, and he's at this emotional kind of weak moment. So did they? Did they not? We have no idea.
doesn't matter at this point, but
No.
there's the hint there that that's a possibility, and
Or,
Nate maybe because remember Brenda almost, she probably would have gone home with that guy from the bar.
oh, for sure.
So it's kind of maybe giving Nate that same thing as well. So neither of them are any better than the other,
Mm-mm.
but yeah.
But
So
fractures in their relationship for sure.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, Lisa, I just can't with her and her irritating voice and her, oh, she's a chef or something like, oh, but she says she got offered a job in LA. We forgot that.
Oh, I
And
missed that part.
oh
Oh,
no, she tells them at the table while they're eating meatless meatloaf that that she was offered a job in LA to be a chef for like some movie producer. And
oh,
she didn't know if she was going to take it or not.
I
So it's
missed
kind of
some
setting
of
up
this stuff
for, are we going to see more of her? Which
coming
we are.
up
I'm sorry to tell y'all we are, but
back.
you'll hear
Yes.
me complain about her a lot.
So talking about people from the past, we get more of Keith. Huge.
Yes.
I love this whole part of this in this episode with so Keith and his mom are having this interchange with his niece there, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Where is her mom? Where's my sister?" Blah,
Yeah.
blah,
So the
blah.
mom
Who
has been like
knows? Ugh.
not, yeah, the mom has been staying there in the sister's apartment and not lot trying to prevent Keith from knowing what's really happening. So
Yeah.
she's saying, "Oh no, she told me she was out with a friend or she was working late or the mom keeps making excuses for the daughter as to why she's not home and Keith suspects that she's out on a drug binge and it just kind of shows that dynamic where that the sister has probably been enabled that way
Her
for a
whole
long time.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, you see the niece's sass because she's like, I don't want to go stay at your house. My stuff is here. And he's like, well, my stuff's at my house. We're going there. And she's just like, well, why can't you come here? And she's sassing him back and stuff. So she's had no structure to a lot of her life. We're kind of
Yeah.
done with this. And the way she talks throughout the episode, I mean,
It's
salt
too
in the
much.
mouth. It's too
I
much.
would have not no
Way
and
over this.
Hannah,
But
I mean
so Keith,
no.
Keith is out on he's out with his police car with his partner, and there's a hostage something or hold off situation, and he has to pick her up from school, and he can't get anybody to. So he calls David and says, David, I'm sorry to do this, but could you help me? And he's like, of course, I'll get
Yeah.
her. I'll get her. No problem.
Yeah.
So he goes and picks her up. And I mean, she says a lot of crazy stuff to him. But what's funny is she says it, Ruth is at the table and Ruth basically says, you're going to sit down here and have dinner. We don't eat in front of the TV. This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
She throws out a lot of stuff like, hey, do you know that David and my uncle used to date? And then she says a lot of really derogatory things and
She's
everything.
looking for shock value. Like she's just trying to, and,
Attention.
I,
She
and I'm
needs,
not sure how old she is. I think they say like fourth grade. So she's probably 10 or 11, 10. And so it's kind of sad because you can tell that she's trying to get attention of adults in very much the wrong ways and has obviously heard that language and heard those
right.
interactions, before to be talking like that. But it's extreme. I mean, hell, even I have an 8-year-old. You have an 8-year-old too.
Yeah.
And that would not, I mean, my 8-year-old says the sassiest things to me, but nothing like that. If that would be,
No, it's too
that
much.
would be the end. Yeah.
But you see this interesting relationship where David is humored by her and she kind of likes
Yeah.
something about David. And
Yeah.
then she comments, what I think is the cutest is she comments, she goes, yeah, Uncle Keith has a boyfriend right now. His name's Eddie and I don't like him. And Dave's like,
Yeah.
oh, really? Why? Pray tell.
Yeah.
Oh, you've piqued my interest. And so
Oh, yeah.
he's all happy now because she has said that he's not the best. And so he's like, oh,
She doesn't
there's
like him.
maybe
Yeah.
there's an opening here for me kind of thing.
Maybe.
And it all kind of ends where she falls asleep on the couch and Keith comes and gets her and they have a little interchange and it's just sweet the way Ruth is with her and the way that David and Keith, you can just see it between them and it's just nice. And you're like, yes, please circle back around to you guys, get rid of the
Right.
Eddie. And so it's sweet because she really likes David and likes
Yeah.
something I think part of what she likes is the routine of his home a little bit. Like
Yeah.
they're
Oh,
having
yeah.
dinner and they're
Yeah.
talking and they're normal.
It's a kid definitely that does not have a normal home life that you can see. You can tell that a structured home life like that would probably make a big difference in her behavior and her attitude and
Yeah,
all of those things. So it's kind of sad, honestly.
it is. It is.
But
But it's kind
yeah,
of cool. And then Brenda, let's talk Brenda and her mom.
her
So
mom is just
they go to the spa to
well,
watch.
well, hold on now. I
Oh,
gotta,
go
I
ahead.
gotta. So first of all, Brenda, well, this was interesting. So Brenda has a massage client and they're talking and they're kind of friendly. She asks the massage client what her job is, and she says, I'm a prostitute. And you can tell that like really interests Brenda in some kind of way.
Yes.
And I'm not sure what exactly that means, but she's very intrigued by this woman who is a prostitute. And then she gets a phone call from her mother, and her mother is, oh, you have to come to this place. It's an emergency. It's an emergency. And then she gets over there, and her mother like tackles her out of the sidewalk and go ahead. It's just funny how it's so dramatic why she has to get over to some emergency.
And they're watching for this woman to leave the spot because supposedly she slept with Brenda's dad. And
Yeah.
so they're
So Brenda's
watching.
dad's car is there,
Yep.
and it has like cigarettes on the dash that aren't the kind he smokes. And I had like a hair scrunchie on the shifter knob. And so Brenda's mom is losing her mind about what this means. Um, Go ahead.
And Brenda's kind of like, well, don't you guys, I thought you guys had an arrangement. And she goes, he broke a rule. And Brenda's like, a rule? She said, yes. We have to tell each other before we sleep with someone else. And she goes, huh? And she goes, and he didn't tell me about this one. So this is breaking a rule. So this is bad. And so then Brenda gets her to tell her all these other rules. And it's like, you don't sleep with my friends. I don't sleep with your friends. Never in Hawaii, never on a holiday. Oh shoot, what were some of the, you can't spend under $75 on the hotel room and you can't spend over $300 on the hotel room. And just like this big crazy list of things that you have to fall within in order to sleep with someone without getting in trouble with your spouse.
At that age, though, at that age, because they're probably 60s.
60s, I would say. Yeah.
You know, I hear that people come into like a second or a third or whatever in that, whatever it is in that age, I guess they have a resurgence of that. Um, so that's funny to me, but it's kind of like a bonding thing for Brenda and her mom to be like spying on her dad and seeing if he's, I'm just like, God, that's so messed up, but at least they're enjoying each other's company, kind of, right?
It is, I mean, it's good that they're talking to each other as adults and as women,
Yes.
but then it all goes sideways and she's like, bashing on Brenda and who she is and what she does. And then Brenda slaps her mom and then her mom kicks her out of the car.
Yeah.
It all goes south. And then later Brenda says, well, mom got out of the car and she jumped on the person and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that didn't happen. I'm like, did she make that up or were we supposed to believe that it did happen? But she got kicked out of the car and she was walking away. So did that not really happen? And she's just
I
making,
don't know.
like, it just kind of got all messy in
Yeah,
there.
it's hard to tell what we were supposed to make of that, but yeah, her mom is really out there
Yes.
and
Very.
interesting and very dramatic.
Well, I'm kind of carrying on her story a little bit. Nate calls while he's out of town and like says, checks in with her. And she's like, okay, well, my bath's ready. I got to take a bath. And so
Because
then,
he's got a guilty conscience, probably.
yeah, a little bit. So then she gets in the bath and she, you see that there's a knock on the door. And so she jumps out and she goes to the door and it's Grant Show. I don't know his name in this, the guy from the bar.
Whatever it
And
is,
he
yeah.
comes in and he takes off her robe and they start like going at it. Well, then
How are
she,
you gonna let some strange man just come to your house for the first time? I don't know, Carrie.
how
They
did he
don't,
know where she lives? But it's all just a fantasy. She's making it up and she's masturbating in the
yeah,
bathtubs. It's not really that he's not really there. But we see where her mind is. We
yeah.
see what she's dreaming about and
And
where
it's
her
not Nate.
interest is. And it's not Nate because they haven't had sex in a long time, for them. And so we're kind of getting a glimpse into the fractures and how big they really are and what might be coming or not coming. And yeah, so it's interesting with them. So we'll see. You can feel there's something weird going on, but we don't fully know the extent. So it's building. I feel like we're building towards something with all of that.
Yeah, it's a toxic relationship is what it
And
is.
it always has been.
Sure, it always has been, and it's interesting to me because, we talked about a couple episodes ago how we found out like how much time has elapsed now, and it's
Hmm.
like 7 months maybe at the most by now, and it feels longer, doesn't it?
Gosh, so much longer. Yeah.
It feels like they've been,
Like 3 years or something.
yeah. So, um, I don't know. It's their relationship is in a weird place. And I guess we just have to wait and see where it goes. But Nate is in Seattle with Lisa. I don't know. I just don't like her. I just don't.
She might be around for a little bit. She might
She
become,
might be.
yeah,
I
guys, what
don't
do you think of
know.
Lisa? Well, we kind of conclude some of what happens later. So Nate comes into the kitchen and Ruth says, so what time did your friends pick up, the niece? I can't remember her name. It's like,
Oh,
it's,
the little girl.
yeah, they call her something
Taylor.
Taylor, but they call her something else. Tatey or something. I don't know. They use like a little shortened
Oh,
name.
okay.
But anyway, she said, what time did you pick up? And he's like, oh, it was 1 a.m. That is not a good time for, to have her out and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, she needs this and she needs that. And she's kind of goes into this stuff about the plan and the building the house, and David basically kind of puts her in her place and tells her to
Yeah.
shut up and mind her own business. Like, kind of goes off on her and just walks away. And is like, no, Ma, we're not. I
Yeah.
don't need your input basically into my personal life and into what's going on with me. But thanks. Bye-bye. And kind of
Yep.
walks out. And she's like,
Yep.
oh. And she goes back to drinking her coffee. And I kind of feel bad for her because she's just trying, but yet she doesn't know how to all the time. And she oversteps or she understeps or she it says the absolute wrong thing, but she's trying. She's trying so hard. I just think she doesn't know how to.
No, she doesn't. And it doesn't matter how old you are, nobody irritates you as quickly as your own mother.
Of
So
course.
she can just say like my mother and I don't have a good relationship, but that's not the point. But the point is like just I can just hear her say one word and I just honestly I want to break my eardrums. I can't but you know what I mean? Like there's just nobody in the world, maybe other than your spouse, that can get you as pissed off as quickly and as irrationally and for absolutely no reason other than maybe a look on their face or the way they breathe or a word they say in a tone than your own mother. So even though she's trying and doing the best that she can, she's also their mom, and nothing she does is going to be correct. But it's not even like it's Claire who's a teenager, it's her adult sons in their mid 30s. So I just think that's very true, right? About our parents, as much as we love them, even if you have a good relationship with them, it's like they just you know, they can do anything, and we're going to be that pretty soon, I think. If you're not already, I feel like I already am that to my daughter. She's
Yes.
already she tells me I'm the cringiest mom.
Oh.
I'm the cringiest mom. She says, Mom, stop. She gives me the hand. You
I don't
don't
know if
know.
they say bruh one more time,
Ugh.
I'm like, that word is not allowed here.
No, I tell her I'm not your bro, I'm your mom. Or she'll say, dude. Or oh no, she says, girl, girl, girl. I said, I'm not your girl, I'm your mom. So, but
Yeah, it's
gosh.
funny how you get to that point and then it's like these stark realizations that I'm much older than I think I really am, and I'm so much more out of tune than I actually really think I am.
Well, yeah. It's yeah.
It's
I
weird.
mean, I don't know. It's weird raising kids. So I do, like I was saying when we started this show, the first time around I'm the same age as Claire is in the show. So in 2001, I was a high school senior,
Yeah.
and just like Claire is. And so I identified with Claire the first time I watched it because I was in my very early 20s. And this time I identify with Ruth. I see it all from her perspective so much more, and I feel so much worse for her and the way Claire talks to her and treats her. But they do have an adversarial relationship that I think mother and daughters have. And but like I said, even with her grown sons, all she has to do is just say one thing and it's just the wrong thing. But that's those relationships.
Yeah. When it fully ends with them placing that empty box in the
Empty
van,
box.
and them heading out to come back to LA with the deceased gentleman. And so that's kind of how it all closes down and
So
moves
we can
on from that.
assume, just to kind of talk about funeral stuff,
Yeah.
we can assume then that he was embalmed,
Mhm.
right? I would assume that. And I'm just bringing that up because in the beginning of the episode they talked about like ice packs, and I bet people are curious on how you do transport someone from one funeral home to another for long distance like that. So, probably embalmed, but you can be transported with their gel packs now, usually like
Yeah.
the kind of like the ones you put in your lunchbox or your cooler, um, on certain places of the body, is acceptable. So that's how you do it.
Yeah. Yeah, because at this point, it's 1, 2, maybe 3 days have passed. So it's not like it's just brand new because I think he died. Then they contacted the family. Then they came into the funeral home. And then they had to book the trip. So that was
Oh
another.
yeah, then they had to go get him. He
And
was
they
probably a
traveled
coroner's
up and they
case.
got there and they ate dinner. And then I feel like they stayed one night and
Yeah.
maybe, and then they next day, like they were at the drive-through food place and doing some things and then stayed another night and then got him. Like there was no rush to this.
Well,
That's
maybe I thought maybe it was a coroner's case because he died on a bus.
It could be. So maybe it had an autopsy and they had to, but still that's that made me wonder why they didn't just drive up. It's not like they were doing it for brevity of time because they were there for over a day before they even hit the road to come
Well, how long
back.
does it take to drive from LA to Seattle? I mean, that's probably, well, let's Google. That's a long time. LA's way down there, right?
It is. I mean, it's a long duration, but I feel like if
LA
you're for
to
cost wise, you're gonna you would have spent
It's a
less.
17-hour drive.
Jeepers.
Look how far that's like the whole that it's literally the whole United
The whole
States.
coast. Yeah.
It's the whole coast. That would have been yeah, it would have been and then if you I mean that's a 20-hour drive if you only stop a few times to eat or something.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a long road trip to take with your brother too. Can you even imagine?
Yeah. No, so that's why they flew because they had to they would have taken it would have taken them 3 days to get there, 3 days to get back and then I mean
Ugh, that sounds
it'd be
terrible.
miserable. I don't, and I wonder if, I don't know, I wonder if flight prices were less at that time. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows, but maybe it wasn't as expensive to fly in 2001-ish, 2002 as it is.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, who knows? But no,
Crazy.
that's a
Yeah,
long time.
that is crazy. Yeah, that episode, I like because we do introduce some new characters that may be coming around with a niece, and we saw her just for a glimpse the episode before, but she is looks like she may be a bigger role, and then we meet Lisa and maybe she'll be getting around, and then all the fractures within Nate and Brenda and the mom on her little rebuilding her house journey, a blueprint. So we are in building and it's like, what are we building towards here? Because these are getting to be big things here that we might be opening.
Well, we're starting to come away from the focus being on the funeral home and that stuff.
Yeah.
And which is okay because this show does, it is a character driven show, but it does kind of ebb and flow with that. So there'll be some episodes that are heavy in, the funeral home, um, aspect of it, some that are not, but ultimately it's a 5 season long show about a family,
Yeah.
that happens to take place in a funeral home. So this one was fairly light, but I will say that they still every episode so far have touched on something that is unique,
Yeah.
right? So, like the first episode of the season was the drug overdose. The second was
Athlete.
the athlete. Then the third was the just a I don't want to say a regular cancer death, but
Yeah.
that. And then this is a ship out or a ship in. So I think that they're still trying to not expose, but they're still trying to show things that are real, that really
Right.
happen in funeral homes. And it's not just a whole bunch of little old ladies or, anything. It's still a good mix of different kinds of deaths, different kinds
Videos
of
and
people, which
yeah.
is very realistic because you will get all kinds of things at the same time. It's just that way. So that they're still doing a good job with the funeral home stuff and the things that they are showing and saying, other than a freight train, are
Or FedEx. I'm gonna FedEx your
you
dad.
can't even FedEx cremated remains.
No. So that's just asinine. Sorry, but that's just crazy.
No, it is. I don't know why they said that, but yeah, you can't FedEx even cremated remains, you guys, just so you know.
Yeah.
Uh, but no, I think they're still doing a good job while trying to build up the characters and have more of a character. driven show at this point. So
Well, we're in it. Let's see what happens next week for episode 5. So we're closing out episode 4 today. Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure to give comments and tell us your own stories of shipping people across the country if you've done it,
yeah.
with loved ones and what your experiences were like. We'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.